The Fault of Slandering Noble Beings, Part 41. Regarding the fault of discussing and slandering other bodhisattvas, Karma Chagme Rinpoche, in the aspiration prayer of Sukhavati, stated it like this: the sin of slandering bodhisattvas is heavier than killing the sentient beings of the three realms. I openly confess and repent of such meaningless sins. This means that if we slander bodhisattvas, the offense is extremely severe. How severe is it? Killing all sentient beings in the three realms, naturally, is an extremely severe offense. If the offense of killing just one sentient being is so severe, let alone killing all beings in the three realms. Therefore, sometimes without any purpose, we frequently slander other bodhisattvas. This offense is very serious. So we must openly confess and repent before all Buddhas and bodhisattvas. Karma Chagme Rinpoche's meaning at the time was this: the so-called bodhisattva refers to a person who, from the moment genuine bodhicitta arises in their mind stream, is considered a beginner bodhisattva here. It does not necessarily mean bodhisattvas like Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara, those who are commonly acknowledged as great bodhisattvas. That is to say, if there is a person in whose mind stream genuine bodhicitta has truly arisen, they are called a bodhisattva. If that is the case, for example, among those of us sitting here listening to the teaching, there are truly some who, when previously listening to the Way of the Bodhisattva or various Mahayana texts, including the ornament of Mahayana sutras, have likely generated this bodhicitta. And not only have they generated bodhicitta, but in their mind stream, they have also given rise to this genuine bodhicitta. This must definitely exist. If we talk about ultimate bodhicitta, that is a bit difficult. But as for conventional bodhicitta, many people must have generated such an awakened mind. Because bodhicitta is a type of awakened mind, and if this awakened mind has never been lost, this person is called a bodhisattva. Doesn't the Way of the Bodhisattva also say that the moment such an altruistic mind arises, from that moment on, their name changes, and their significance changes? They truly become a bodhisattva. Therefore, if we were to slander a bodhisattva, truly, if we are not careful, there are definitely many bodhisattvas here among us. Can everyone in the future? I believe you will be careful for about a week. But after that, ordinary beings are just like this. We forget again. During this 1 week you might think, oh indeed, this person might be a bodhisattva. That one is also a bodhisattva, because we cannot tell from outward appearances. Someone might look like they have a bad temper, or their appearance is not very dignified, but in reality, they truly are a great bodhisattva. It is very hard to say. If they are without fault, yet you fabricate rumors, this is a kind of slander. Originally they did nothing wrong, but you say they have faults. Sometimes if we view things through our own biased perspectives, there is a problem. They originally possess merit, yet we stubbornly deny it. We refuse to acknowledge them and slander them recklessly. This evil karma is even more severe than killing all sentient beings in the three realms at once. This is something many practitioners in the Tibetan region are very careful about. Generally, when people discuss the faults of others, they simply do not participate. When others talk about faults, they try their best to change the subject. If it is truly impossible to change the subject, they let the person talk, but they do not follow along. At first, they might say, oh, and later they won't even say, oh, they just let them talk, because they know this fault is very severe. Venerable Drom Tonpa also said that wherever there are 4 monastics, there is one bodhisattva. It should be a beginner bodhisattva. Confucius also said, among any 3 people walking together, there must be a teacher for me. This should be mentioned in the Analects. It seems we have had 6 lessons on the Analects, but haven't reached this part yet. Which chapter is this in? Among any 3 people walking together, there must be a teacher for me. Among 3 people, there is definitely a teacher of mine. We often feel that, not to mention 3 people, even among 300 people, there is no teacher for us. Some people just feel that this person is no good, and that person is no good. Even among 30 people, you might not be able to find a teacher. This viewpoint of Confucius and the viewpoint of Dromtonpa are quite similar. Dromtonpa said that among 4 people there is a teacher of mine. Confucius said that among 3 people There is a teacher of mine. As long as someone wears monastic robes, it is impossible for them not to possess a fraction of merit. 100 ordinary people are not equal to a single follower of mine. The Buddha has also said this in other contexts. Whenever there is even a piece or a fragment of monastic robes worn, there is much merit. The Sutra of the 10 Wheels of Ksitigarbha speaks extensively on this. So for us, if we are monastics, we should try our best not to speak of faults. I see that some lay practitioners it seems lay practitioners in a monastic community are quite pitiable. They constantly look at this person's fault and that person's fault. In the past, Sakya Sonam Tsemo, right? Once he saw a few novice monks swimming in a pool, and he said, "Little novices, please get up and put on some clothes. This old man wants to prostrate to you." Perhaps before they wore their monastic robes, he couldn't generate faith or something. He could have just prostrated towards the swimming pool, because these ascetics were in there. But his meaning was probably, when you are not wearing clothes, you look quite mischievous. But once you put on the clothes, it is, after all, the monastic robes of the Tathagata. Fierce wild beasts, upon seeing hunters wearing monastic robes, would also generate compassion. There are various historical accounts of this. This is included in the commentary of the aspiration prayer of Sukhavati and other texts. So, what I want to say today, for monastics as well, just this morning, I went down to look at the Dharma hall below. There were 2 monastics discussing something there. I eavesdropped a little bit, and they were constantly talking about others. Yes, that's it, right. One saying this, the other saying that, back and forth. In the end, I couldn't even tell whose faults they were talking about. Anyway, judging from their expressions and everything, they were talking about the faults of others, because many people, especially elderly people, particularly love to speak of others' faults. How our Kenmo is, how our instructor is, how this person is. And I was thinking, wow, some people truly might not be practicing well. They just love to talk about faults. It seems that talking about faults makes them feel better, just like eating hot pot. Right now in our institute, people are making hot pot everywhere. This isn't necessarily a very good thing. You see, on the nuns' side right now, the finance department is being renovated, and they are also making hot pot. And above the Larungar Hotel, they also want to make hot pot. Is hot pot really that good? It's fine if we don't eat hot pot, but it's best not to slander others. Whether you are a monastic, a lay practitioner, or if you are a manager, someone with special administrative duties, then do what needs to be done. But otherwise, I truly feel that, as His Holiness also said in the past, some people with heavy karma staying in a sublime monastic community only accumulate bad karma, because their own speech and conduct are impure. They see so many faults, it is very pitiable. It's as if they simply cannot bear not speaking out about it. This is wrong, and that is wrong. It would be better for these people to be among worldly crowds. If you are among worldly crowds and speak of others' faults, those others have not generated bodhicitta, and they are not necessarily strict objects of karma. It might be acceptable to speak of their faults. So sometimes it seems that Buddhists also love to speak of faults. This is one of the greatest perils. In the past, as recorded in the records of questions and answers of Kadam disciples, Venerable Dromtumpa would, towards monastics, take off his hat, join his palms, and prostrate. He took off his hat upon seeing monastics. This was generally the custom in the Tibetan region in the past, but now it seems some in the Tibetan region have become spiritually callous. When they see monastics, they just ignore them. Some lay practitioners are like this. In the past, whenever seeing a monastic, no matter what status the layperson had, even for a lowly novice monk, they would take off their hat and join their palms like this. So, please absolutely do not slander bodhisattvas. Otherwise, the so-called sentient beings of the 3 realms is definitely not a small number. If you killed 1.2 or 1.3 billion people, people would not be able to tolerate your evil karma. Not to mention the sentient beings of the 3 realms, which are hundreds or thousands of times more than this. But even if you killed all of them, it would still not be as severe as the evil karma of slandering bodhisattvas. Therefore, you must not slander any bodhisattva, and you must not slander the true Dharma. The Buddha's regent, Maitreya Bodhisattva, also stated this in the ornament of Mahayana Sutras. Mental offenses are inherently evil. Aversion to form is unreasonable. Needless to say about the profound Dharma, leaving it in equanimity is wholesome and faultless. Previously, when we taught the ornament of Mahayana Sutras, I asked everyone to memorize this. I don't know if you did. Actually, the ones His Holiness frequently recited, we were gradually able to memorize them all, and we can still recite them up to now. I hope that those of us here can memorize the Chinese versions of these quotes His Holiness frequently used. Not only memorize them, but understand their meaning. I generally have no problem with the scriptural quotes used by His Holiness. The meaning is that offenses occurring in our mind, for instance, hatred and greed, these are inherently evil. If hatred is generated towards form, such as a spark, firewood, or a pillar, when some people's prayer wheels get stuck, they complain, why is this like this? Generating anger towards inanimate objects, why won't this turn? Some people even get angry when putting on their shoes. They viciously smack the shoes, things like this. If generating hatred towards even these forms is considered unreasonable, then regarding teachings that we cannot ordinarily perceive, the Buddha Dharma is something very profound. You absolutely must not generate hatred or slander towards it. This is absolutely unacceptable. Needless to say about the profound Dharma, how could teachings you have doubts about make you generate hatred? In this case, leaving it in equanimity is wholesome and faultless. When you hear something, you can just set it aside, neither accepting nor refuting it. If you just leave it be, there is no fault. Actually, when others are doing things, you shouldn't get afflicted, getting angry over this thing, getting angry over that thing. Some people's afflictions are truly very heavy, I feel. They lose their temper several times a day, very intensely, and it is completely unnecessary. But perhaps they cannot help it. This kind of karma and the power of their afflictions is very strong. Perhaps they practiced very little in past lives. So, if you frequently generate hatred towards the Dharma or generate hatred towards others, then you should try your best to practice. Because if you don't practice and are like this for your whole life, then the next life will probably be even more tragic. So, our mental consciousness is still very severe. If you shouldn't generate hatred toward ordinary physical objects, how much more so for other things? So everyone, do not slander anyone. This was very brief, I just explained it a bit. Then the next part is, disaster comes from the mouth. Usually we primarily use our mouths to speak. Just as Master Mipham Rinpoche states in the Treatise on the Modes of a Ruler, chapter on speech, where it is written, usually becoming a loved one or an enemy, sometimes becoming close to someone, or sometimes even generating enmity, is rarely caused by other things. It is very rare that other things turn someone into an enemy or a loved one. It is mostly caused by words. A lot of times, it is due to speaking inappropriately or speaking well. For example, if you speak very well, they become a loved one. So when some important figure comes, who should go see them today? Because their words might bring us benefits. Oh, this person absolutely must not go. Otherwise, when they are in that group, once they speak, everything is ruined. Therefore, one should observe carefully before speaking. So in any situation, everyone should be very careful with their speech, because most friendships and most enmities are caused by language. With words, even if it is just a single sentence, there are people listening in front of you and people watching behind you. This is also a Tibetan saying. If you say a sentence, someone might be listening in front of you, but behind you, someone will observe how this person spoke. Did I not mention before, aren't many people around us acting like police? On the surface, they invite you for a meal, invite you to their home, but they are actually observing if you practice well or not. Are you a decent person? It isn't necessarily complete trust. Do not think that just because they treated you to a meal today, they trust you completely. They might take this opportunity and after some time say, Ah, back when the two of us were on good terms, what was it that they said? This is very possible. So, no matter what you say, you need to be careful. Just as a folk proverb says, do not shout loudly. Vicious hunters are lurking to catch deer. Do not whisper softly. Grey wolves are lurking to hunt sheep. Probably none of you know how to interpret this. What does it mean? In the Tibetan region, there is generally a story like this. A mother sheep has some advice for her little lamb. What is this advice? She tells it not to go to the front of the flock, otherwise there is the danger of wolves, but also do not lag behind. Otherwise, the shepherd will hit you with stones. Meaning that on the surface the mother seems to just go bah and not know anything. But in reality she has advice for her little lamb. Do not show off, do not go to the front, otherwise it is dangerous. And do not stay behind, otherwise it is also dangerous. If you stay with me in the middle, nothing will happen. Sometimes we see cows in Africa. The ones in the front are often eaten by lions or wolves, and the ones in the back often are too. If it is a relatively smart calf, staying in the middle often prevents obstacles. This means that speaking is also like this. This is a folk proverb. You shouldn't shout loudly. Because if you shout loudly, vicious hunters are lurking to catch deer. They want to catch the deer. Or when the hunter is trying to shoot the deer, if he is in the middle of hunting the deer, and you shout, "Ah," loudly, he won't be able to catch it, and they will complain about you. You cannot be too loud, otherwise, someone quietly preparing to catch or shoot that deer, hunters often do it quietly, holding a hunting rifle ready to shoot. If you let out a loud roar at this moment, his plan might fail, and he will come looking for trouble with you. That is the meaning. And also, your voice shouldn't be too thin or too small. If your voice is too small, wild wolves might be lurking, hunting the sheep. At this time, a louder voice is needed. Generally, shepherds or mother cows would get up at night and roar a bit. At this time, if the wolf is catching the sheep, if the shepherd roars loudly, the wolf will run away and won't catch the sheep. This means you cannot be too loud and you cannot be too soft. You need a moderate way, the middle way. But the meaning is that, when speaking, one cannot be too aggressive either. If you are too aggressive, language can also cause harm. Some speak too fast, some speak too slow. If it is too slow, it makes people want to sleep, and too fast isn't good either. So whether it is fast or slow, high or low, there is a proper measure. Of course, perhaps my speech also has some flaws that I myself am unaware of. Controlling oneself is the most qualified for it. Therefore, one must be cautious and meticulous in speech and action. That is the meaning. Well, we will end the teaching here.
Sonam dai tamche zebanya tona nibe jana pashe yergana jiran tuba jibum sonin rowa rosho
Bandar gara badna sadar Bandar gara badna sadar Bandar gara badna sadar